Hey everyone, how you doing? You may have noticed, and you'll continue to keep noticing, something new at the beginning and end of my videos when I superimpose the little blurbs about where you find me on the internet, wherever the hell I did it on this one. There's a new thing there, isn't there? Yeah, Mastodon. A lot of people talking about Mastodon. A lot of people have been on Mastodon for a while, but the complete implosion that's taking place at Twitter every day, the slow motion train crash, has more people considering Mastodon. It's actually seen the largest uptick in increased, users ever. This is just the last month. So what the hell is it? That's what this video is all about. Okay, so first of all, you may hear some people talk about Mastodon, and you'll also hear those same people or other people in the same conversation refer to something called the Fediverse. Are they the same thing? Are they different? Like, what's the deal? So, okay, to understand Mastodon, you have to understand the Fediverse or Federated Universe. The Fediverse is a collection of essentially server-side software and a lot of different server software and protocols that are all unified because they speak the same language. It's not just like Mastodon is the Fediverse. It is one of the most notable parts, especially nowadays, but a lot of other tools. This is all free open source software, okay? Understand right there. This is not a corporate project. This is the open source community has been working on this kind of thing for a while now. The idea of getting ads and getting money and private interests out of a lot of the services we use is a very cool thing. I mean, the Linux operating system has been around for how long? It's still fighting, still doing a great job of being what it is, even though commercial software exists. The Fediverse includes things like file sharing tools, video streaming tools, and yes, social media type tools. The biggest one, the most notable one, being Mastodon. Mastodon itself is free open source software. It is written by a German nonprofit, maintained by them. It is the way you interact with people through the Fediverse in a very, very Twitter-like way. I'll talk a little more about the interface in a minute, but if you've been on Twitter, if you're familiar with Twitter, like I'm not going to say it's exactly Twitter. I think it's a lot better actually in some ways, but it's a lot like Twitter. So for instance, right now you're seeing the Mastodon interface. This is my sort of instance of Mastodon that I'm attached to. This is me scrolling through. There's little microblogging posts, there are images, there's all kind of content here, and I'm looking at my home feed. This is all people I follow. This is like the way Twitter should have been before they effed up all the algorithm, right? If I want to just see people talking to me, like people who are messaging me, all right, notifications. These are all people who have tagged me in, just like, again, this is very, very Twitter-like. You can see what's going on, and you can filter this out. You can, do I want to see other things that are happening? Do I want to see notifications because I got retweeted, which isn't called retweeting, it's called boosting? Do I want to see my favorites? But that's, again, this is very Twitter-like. Where Mastodon gets a little different is you have these other feeds here like Explore or Local or Federated. What's going on with this? Well, Explore is just like trending, right? Explore is what's going on right now that's picking up steam. I had recently done a little Welcome to Mastodon post that I revised with a link, and that's been, getting some attention the last however many minutes here. These are other things that people that are attached to me or near to me are talking about, boosting, favoriting, etc. This guy is really badass. If you haven't seen this crazy freaking thing, like static electricity fun with long string and a tube. I won't reveal what happens, but it's, yeah, you're going to want to check that out, right? What is local or federated, though? Well, again, we'll get into this about instances. Local is what's happening on my Mastodon instance. I am joined to the DEF CON instance. What are instances? I'll explain all this in a minute, but this is what's happening with people who are on the same instance as me, what they're talking about, sharing, etc. The entire Fediverse, however, the entire Mastodon Fediverse here, I can click to Federated. This is the whole Firehose feed of everything everyone is talking to that is attached to me, that is attached to my instance, which is pretty much all the instances. My DEF CON instance is attached to everything else that's happening. You get a lot of going on here. Now, this can be curated with some algorithm work, etc. But for the most part, when you use Mastodon, you'll probably be just looking at your home feed, the people you follow and what they're saying, or you're checking in on what people are saying to you. Now, speaking of saying to you, what is this? Direct messages. Well, yeah, Mastodon supports DMs essentially. But much like most other social media, DMs, these are not private, and you see people using DMs on Mastodon a lot less than they have on other services. If you want to get in touch with someone directly, stick to Signal, stick to something else that's actually properly secured. Now, here we see a different version of the Mastodon sort of Fediverse interface. This is counter social. It's not exactly like a lot of the other Mastodon instances you'll find. It's very different. It's still Fediverse. It's still running Mastodon. It's more of a TweetDeck style interface. I have an account on Counter Social. It's one of the places I first joined. I don't use it much. I've just sort of parked it to hold my space here, to hold my name here. But, most of the time you will find me, through my DEF CON profile here, my DEF CON Fediverse instance on their Mastodon server. So some of you are already possibly a little confused right now, like the idea of different servers or different instances. You might be saying like, yeah, I mean, big services like Twitter and others, they had like lots of servers, but don't they usually kind of handle all that load balancing at their data center? Like, why are these servers kind of identifiably different? This gets into, in the Mastodon realm, of what are known as instances. Essentially, you don't join like the Fediverse just by joining Mastodon. It's kind of like back in the day, if your relatives or somebody who wasn't very technical, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I got to get on that internet through the Netscape." And you're like, "Well, no, like what's your internet ISP? I mean, do you have like a big one like, MSN or AOL, or do you have some local ISP that you're dialing up to?" Like everyone had their own ISP. They would access the internet, probably browsing it at the time through like Netscape Navigator. But like Netscape wasn't your ISP. You had your own dial-up or DSL or what have you. That's how Mastodon works. The different instances, if you're not a technical person at all, think of it like you're going camping to a big event, like a big hacker camp. I've talked about, CCC and Tour Camp, or a big arts festival or music festival where people are all camping together. You're all going to the same event, right? If you get in the door, you've got your wristband or your badge or whatever, you're all at the same event. You're all seeing the same presentations. You can talk to everyone you can walk around to everyone who's there, but you've got to put your stuff somewhere. You've got to set up a tent and a sleeping bag at some campsite. You might be with just a couple of friends in a little plot of your own, or maybe you're with a bigger theme camp and they have their own area and they're setting up a little central like hangout zone and some, lawn chairs. You have like your campsite, but everyone's there at the event. That's like the Mastodon environment. In the Fediverse through Mastodon, these different instances, you can join and sign up. Like you stake your claim on a big one or some of the social ones, right? So like mastodon.social, huge, huge one, right? There is a lot of technical stuff going on at like infosec.exchange, I think is the big one that a lot of tech people move to. I am on DEF CON's instance. So it's like a bunch of people were going to this big festival and DEF CON said, "Hey, well, we're going to have this little plot of land here. And if you want to pull up and be part of our thing, like this is our spot." And I joined them. defcon.social is the one that I joined. It wasn't publicly open yet. Jeff reached out to me when it was just getting tested. I think they're pretty much ready to go live and let anyone join, though, if you're part of the hacker community, right? What does this mean, though, to join an instance? Well, again, you can see everything that's going on. If you want to get up and walk out of your campsite and go walk around and see other stuff, you absolutely can. It works that way on Mastodon. You can browse anyone else who's part of the Fediverse. If they're affiliated or federated with the larger network, you can see them. You can go and see what they're talking about or tweeting. It's not called tweeting, it's called tooting. It's, you can see what they're posting. You can boost their content. You can follow links. But here's the key thing. If you want to just connect with others in a more intimate way, the choice of instance that you join matters a little bit. You'll have more connection with and be able to more closely and easily find people in your instance. There's no real barrier to connecting with others, but that's the purpose of instances. The other big purpose of instances is that, much like having a little campground area that's like, all right, this is our spot, everyone, that comes with rules. It comes with ground rules. So every instance has a moderation team, and they enforce that instance's policies. So there are behavioral rules, there's a code of conduct in a lot of instances, there's a privacy policy, there's policies about what you aren't allowed to talk about without masking it behind a little warning. So many instances have rules like you can't post explicit sexual nudity and sexual content unless you tag it, not safe for work. And this is so that someone scrolling through the big community feed at, let's say, at work, doesn't start getting, naked people on their screen and getting yelled at by their boss, as if we go into offices anymore. And the reason that rule enforcement is important is the overall Fediverse, yes, it's open, like no one runs it. But if there's an instance out there, and there already have been plenty so far, usually small ones run by people who don't know what the hell they're doing, that's not following any rules, doesn't set any rules, they get flagged as a bad instance. Everyone else is like, hey, over there, like shitfucks.social, like those idiots, their posts are all crap. They're full of racism, and there's all this nudity, and there's all this violence and gore. Other servers, big server instances, will just start blacklisting them. They'll defederate from that instance. So it's, yeah, they're on the Fediverse, but if you're defederated out, you essentially don't exist to the rest of the Fediverse. And this has happened. There have been some high-profile ones, too, where it's become controversial. Counter-social that I showed you. There's a lot of people that don't like counter-social. There's some problematic information that some people have concerns about the guy who runs it. There's not very transparent what's going on there. It's also, yeah, I don't have a problem with counter-social. Obviously, you saw I have a little parked profile there, but it's not where I hang. And it's because maybe counter-social gets defederated. It's unlikely. Just like it's unlikely that infosec.exchange gets defederated, but there were groups out there that didn't like that infosec exchange was welcoming feds, high-profile feds from the government. And a lot of people said, look, this is kind of a hackers sort of space, like it's businessy, but it's also hackers. The feds should go make their own instance. And I support that, honestly. I think that's the right move. It's kind of bad form for the feds to all come in to an instance where like, hey, can we hang with you? It's like, there's a whole campground here, folks. Go make your own spot. It's the Fediverse. We can talk to you if you want, but there's plenty of people that are like, I don't want to have anything to do with the government. I don't want to be attached to them. If there was a government instance, I would block it, they say. And that's possible if the government would just make, feds.social or whatever. So is it a problem that you join an instance worried it's going to get defederated? Not unless you're joining a really small, mismanaged instance run by idiots. Is it a problem, however, that you might join an instance that really is crushed by server load? Yeah. So this is the other thing. If you're old enough to remember IRC, anyone out there was on IRC with me back in the day on like EFNet? Yeah, come on, I know some of you were. We were all trading files illegally or whatever. So just like IRC, there was EFNet, and you could join like EF.net or whatever, but you could also join through lightning.net or idle.net or chupa.net. So there were different ways to join, but you were all part of, the main EFNet chat network. And sometimes a net split would happen because of server oddities, and then it would rejoin. And if there was anybody who was playing games with they were a local admin on the ops on there, and they were like really trying to take over channels and stuff, their server might get kicked out of EFNet. Same idea holds true. Likewise, if you were part of a server, if you were joined to a server that was just really buggy and didn't have a good, reliable connection, you were constantly getting net split off. And it was annoying, right? Just because an instance on Mastodon in the Fediverse is humongous and popular, that doesn't make it the best one to join. So I mentioned like Mastodon.social, right? That's groaning under the load of users that are on it. It is not the place most people are recommended to go check out right now. They are fun. They've got their own thing going, and if you're on there, that's fine. You're not going to vanish. But that table's pretty full at the lunchroom. Find another one. I'll have links to all the stuff I'm talking about down below when I say things like instances.social is a site just about Mastodon instances. And you can find other instances that might appeal to you, more so than just a broad, general, hey, let's talk about anything. You can find a community, you can find people. If you are, someone who knows me, or if you think you're kind of like the people like me and the people I like, come down here. You can check out my followers and my following people, right? Let's look at some of the instances that we see among my people. So a lot of InfoSec Exchange, anybody who's not listed with an instance, that means they're part of the DEF CON instance. Mastodon.social, sure, there's people there. InfoSec, Mastodon, InfoSec. So there are some smaller ones. There are a lot of LGBTQ communities that are great. Hackers Town is fun. Collectiva is kind of more political, anarchistic, really just badass folk the kind of folk you could imagine me hanging out with. And if we check where people who follow me are from, I bet there's going to be a lot more, InfoSec Exchange or Collectiva again, some foreign Mastodon servers over here. Yeah, they're all over the place. Now, are all these people folk that I manually reached out to try to find where they were? No. There's a lot of tools that we'll talk about in a minute for how to find your friends no matter where they have landed on the Fediverse. So this is part of the way that looking for an instance that kind of suits you helps you to find other people. Browsing around your own instance is likely to afford you content and posts from people who are into the same stuff. And you might like that person. Oh, I'm going to follow them for a while. If you and your friends want to get together and run an instance, I mean, it's open source software. You can do it. Don't screw it up. Like, have your shit together. There are things that can go wrong if you have no rules and you're not doing anything properly. Like, you'll get defederated pretty fast if you make a mess of the network for other people, and then you're not going to find anybody. However, you don't just have to browse the timeline and hope that, this delivers forth unto you people that you'd like to follow. You don't have to bank on the idea that your instance has all the people that you ever want to find. And you can change instances, by the way. Again, if you're at a campground, it's kind of like dragging your tent and your sleeping bag somewhere else. It's clunky. You don't want to do it every day, but it's possible. If you've signed up right now and you're like, oh man, I signed up for Mastodon last year and I'm on that just general social one, that kind of seems like it sucks. I wish I had yeah, you could move instances. I'll link below if there's a good guide for it. Somebody was talking to me on Mastodon about this. They had a little explainer tweet or two. But here's the main thing, though. If you want to find other people and be found on Mastodon, there's a number of things you can do, and that's really what this video is about. First and foremost, and other people have talked about this too. Bo has talked about this. A number of people have talked about this. If you're creating a Mastodon profile right now, and you already use Twitter or other social media services, consider keeping the same username, profile pic, avatar, that kind of stuff. It makes you more findable. If you're trying to reestablish friendships that you've had on Twitter and you're like thinking Twitter is going to go away, be findable, right? Now, if you're still on Twitter, a couple of great things you can do there. Tell people you're going to Mastodon or that you've created a Mastodon account. Add that link to your Twitter bio somewhere as your location link or website link. If you have a pinned tweet, consider making that pinned tweet about, hey, I'm also on the Fediverse now. This is me on Mastodon. There's a good reason for this. It's not just that you're hoping people happen to notice that. There are automated tools, and I've been using these extensively in the last few weeks. There are automated tools that will allow you to search your own Twitter followers and following people and see if any of them have said, hey, everybody, this Mastodon thing's cool. I'm on it. So FediFinder, amazing tool that's been evolving so rapidly. The old version, I mean, this was the version like a week or two ago, and it's already grown amazingly. Let's look at the old version for a second here. It's kind of a little bit more granular in the steps. If I authorize FediFinder to look into my Twitter profile, if you've never done this, it's just a third-party external app. You would click to authorize with a Twitter token. And I said, wow, Twitter's really dragging under the load, isn't it? So, okay, I have authorized this to interact with my Twitter account. Now, it can't make tweets as me. It can't steal my data. The only thing it can have permission to do is scan the people I follow and scan the people who follow me. So let's say if I want to scan people that I follow on Twitter, let's go ahead and do that. And it's scanning all these different people. What is it scanning for? It's, again, like I just described, it's looking through all of their profiles and their pinned tweets. It's looking for anyone who's mentioned something about the Fediverse. Oh, look at that. 180 people have done that. These are all people that you're seeing here that are mentioning that. Now, I could manually click and follow Astrid or follow Dash or follow Tab, but I don't have to. If I want to, I can hide that there. I can go ahead. These are all these different exchanges where my people are. Again, people are on DEF CON Social, a lot of people on InfoSec Exchange. But I can download this as a comma-separated value. I can download this as an export. This file, if I grab it, I can go ahead and import that into Mastodon later. So, here I am just in my Mastodon interface. If I go into edit my own profile, there are a number of things I can do. Yeah, I can change my avatar and do other things like that, change my fields, but I can also go to import and export. What is this for? Well, I can go ahead and import data into Mastodon. What am I importing? Well, a following list. All those people who I was following that turns out they're also on Mastodon. If I go ahead and import that, right, I'm going to import, this is the ones that I found, right? Let's say I can merge or overwrite. You always choose merge if you've done this a few times before. But let's see what we get. Upload, bang. That's going to be processed in. And if I go back to Mastodon, maybe do I have more followers? There are more followings. Let's see. Did that number just go up? No, I just done this pretty recently. I think it's the same number. But that grabs all these people that were part of my Twitter universe and brings them into my world here on Mastodon. Now, I mentioned that the FediFinder, the new version here, right, there's a lot more going on. So we have not only can you look for other instances, if you don't have Mastodon just yet, you can find where your friends are and join that instance. You can publish a handle. You can, what we just did, scan your own followers and following. I can't use the latest version because it will just crawl under the number of following, people following me. But again, you can do that import and export operation. It's a really, really cool tool. Very similar tool to that, Mastodon. If you want to try this one out, same idea. It's a little bit buggier. It doesn't seem to work with some broken images here. But in my experience, it does the same thing. It will authorize to look into your Twitter, scan all of your people, looking for people to potentially connect with. And this one seems to scan a little bit further, so I can actually hide. If everyone I already follow is already connected here, okay. So Leslie's got a Counter Social. I could follow them on Counter Social if I wanted to, but again, they're probably just parked there, much like I am. Now, thus far, all of these tools have just been showing us people who want to be found, and they're on, some kind of Mastodon instance already, right? What about people who aren't there yet? You might have a lot of friends that you say, man, I don't want to lose all my connections to my friends, and I want to try to reach out to them, and I really got, how do I just save my contacts from Twitter? There's a tool for that too. The unfollowers or unflowers, I think it means unified followers. I don't know what this means, but on Sirafo, you can go ahead and again, if you authorize Twitter to interact with this tool, I'm going to go ahead and authorize that through the API right here. What will this do? It will scan and let you download a list of all of your followers and following people, et cetera, et cetera. So what is this giving me now? I mean, you can see this is all rather public data. This is all of the people whom I follow or who follow and interact with me on Twitter. And if I want to go through, and I can break it out by followers, following, et cetera, and I can make lists of who I want to stay in touch with, who I don't want to stay in touch with, and I can try to reach out to those people and say, hey, let's say Nerd Monkey, Josh, I want to reach out to Mariana, like, hey, you're not on Mastodon yet. Have you heard about it? I can go through them. I can say, okay, these organizations, maybe they're going to be on Mastodon one day. It's a really, really nice service. So you might say, wow, this is really, really fantastic. I can get to contact all these people that I was, formerly attached to. I can reach out to them. I can say, hey, I found you on Mastodon, or hey, you want to come find me on Mastodon? That's really cool. But what happens when Twitter ultimately crumbles under its own weight of mismanagement and it's just being sold off for parts? I mean, Elon's going to kind of run it into the ground, in my opinion. The only thing of value they're going to have left will be data. Can I delete my data from Twitter? Yes and no. Here are the tools that give you the best shot at doing that. So journalist and activist, notable fellow Micah F. Lee created Semiphemeral. How does it work? Well, you can read about it here, right? It essentially goes in and lets you purge Twitter data. It is very similar in function, frankly, to a service I've been using for a long time, which is TweetEraser, right? I actually use the premium version of TweetEraser. It can go, way, way back, and I've been doing this for years. I've been advocating doing this for a long time, reaching into your archives and ripping everything out. I mentioned the archive, right? So these tools, Semiphemeral and TweetEraser, they can only look back so far in the API. if you log in with Twitter, if you authorize with Twitter, it can try to pull back through your status and your dashboard, but it can't get everything, right? Just like TweetEraser, it advertises, quote, max 3,200 favorites, or, search filter, unlimited, I can go back, unlimited. Well, only with importing Twitter data. 3,200 is how far back you can go just through the API. So yeah, something I advocate that people do is get their Twitter archive. If you're not familiar with this, you go into your services and security settings in Twitter, you can search for how to download my Twitter archive. It takes a while, especially these days. Everything's groaning and really falling apart over there. It took me almost a week for me to get my download link. Your Twitter archive has been prepared. What do you get when you download your Twitter archive? Well, you get a zip file. You get a very, very large zip file. And if we look in here, this is all of your data. I mean, it's explained to you, right? But if you go into data, all of your tweets, all of your media, like profile media, that would be my images there. Tweeted media, I tweet a freaking ton of, of images and stuff. I'm sharing all kind of content here. Now, do you need all of this content? Do you need all of this media and DM messages, deleted tweets? You don't need all this media if you're going to use one of these tools like Semiphemeral or TweetEraser. So what you can actually do, all of your tweet data, it's down in here. Your tweets in here, your header information here, your messages, your favorites, etc. All of those things. All of this up here, this is unnecessary bloat. If you want to, go ahead and get that the hell out of there. Because those services that require you to, quote, upload your Twitter archive, you'd like it to upload sometime in this century. If I purge all this out of there, my archive that was, what was it, a gig and a half, something like that? Let's see what our archive is now. Yeah, 19 megs. Way, way easier to upload this to TweetEraser, which will then populate a dashboard of all my tweets, and I can just select them. I can search for them progressively. I can do whatever I want to do. I used to delete my tweets every New Year's morning. I would delete the previous year's, like the previous year's tweets. So on New Year's Day 2020, I would delete anything that wasn't from 2019, anything older than that. And I would do that every year. I use TweetEraser for it. I'm going to do that, in a few days as well, at the end of December. I recommend you do it. Now, as far as DMs go, there is a wonderful tool called DM Destroyer. It is a script. It is clunky, right? Like the Twitter API is not great. And this was something that was just put together to be functional, not beautiful. But yeah, Jackie and her partner, like they've made this. It's a very inexpensive thing to license. And you can see here, like it runs in a console window in the browser. So it doesn't even need API access, essentially. It will march its way through your Twitter DMs and it will just keep killing the conversations. It'll just knock them all out. And when it's done, it's done. It'll get hung up on group messages, so you have to manually clear those occasionally, but you can set it and walk away. I mean, I have hundreds upon hundreds, sometimes thousands of DMs at any given time. And I could never have purged them if it wasn't for this script. Now, important fact, does any of this actually mean the data is gone forever? No. We don't know what the hell's going on over at Twitter. I mean, Elon's probably giving all of it to like Andy Ngo and Miles Chong and other freaking fash so they can do horrible shit with it. But it does at least make you a little harder to find publicly, and it cleans up all your devices. If somebody takes your laptop or your phone and looks at your DMs, they won't be there anymore. If somebody is searching for you on the internet, if a potential employer is looking you up and wants to see stuff you've been saying, it's nice to know that you can kind of clean that out. That's part of the reason I've recommended people do this for years. It's good practice, even if it's not perfect. Okay, we've talked about deleting a lot of your data out of Twitter. What about stuff you want to preserve from Twitter? Again, if you're like me and if you're saying the even money is on this whole service imploding or falling apart or being shot into space, maybe there's stuff in there you want. Well, we just saw the Twitter archive function. You can get your Twitter archive. So stuff you have shared, stuff that you have posted and DM'd, you can get all of that. But maybe there's something on Twitter that somebody else has said that you really want to preserve. I know loads of researchers that have bookmarked famous threads that are full of really great data and conversation, and they always say, oh, this is the thread you want to reference when somebody's talking about X. There's a tool for that too. Let's check it out. So let's say you have a particularly incredible thread that you really want to preserve this. And this is, again, this is one of the threads that I've talked to people about a lot over the years, about creating safe and welcoming communities. Well, so if I want to save this, go ahead and grab that, and then paste it in here. And reason for archiving, it's a cool thing. So creating safe and secure communities. All right, let's go ahead and unfold that thread. Yes, I understand this will be a new tab. Okay. And what it will do is it'll march through that whole thread and provide a nice little PDF packet for you. And there we go. Put all together, including replies and so forth, the best its way it can. PDF, easily downloadable. After you've made yourself a Mastodon profile somewhere, you've gotten all the data you think you can out of other people's tweets or your own tweets, you've pulled down links to your friends, then what are you going to do? Well, try to reach out to other friends. Let people know where you're going to be. Consider sending a message out to others. What should this message consist of that you're going to send out to other friends? Two things, really. Where have you gone and how they can find you and connect with you there. Basically, you want to communicate to people the kind of stuff I'm telling you right here. I have a whole block message that I've been sending to hundreds of people who matter to me online. A lot of you out there have gotten this DM from me by now. I put it up on GitHub, in fact. It was useful enough, and other people got it from me. They said, oh man, this is great stuff. All these links, all the stuff we've been talking about in this video. They said, can I like borrow this as a template? I'm like, yeah, freaking go nuts. So let people know where you'll be. Let people know other places that you are, and they'll find you. They'll connect with you. But, you know, even if this isn't for you right now, even if you're like, no, I mean, I don't know, we'll see what happens with Twitter. I don't know, or that sounds like too much work. Or, yeah, I'm busy. We're all freaking busy. Consider maybe just registering your Mastodon user account somewhere on one of those instances that you like. Just do that, just to hold it. It doesn't take, it's free, right? It's all free software. You need an email address. You need to click confirm. You don't even have to set the profile up if you don't want to, but just claim your username on an instance that you think is popular enough for you, and you'll have it. You know, you'll just have it later. If you really want to get a little extra bold, you throw that link to that profile in your, Twitter bio or what have you. You don't have to do anything with it yet, but it's insurance against what may happen to Twitter. What do I think is the future of Twitter? I mean, yeah, my money's on Elon's going to tank it. Like, he's not very good at business. And it's, as hilarious as that would be, especially if it takes out more of his wealth and knocks him down a whole bunch and he winds up with lawsuits or who the hell knows. But that will suck for a lot of people. Like, Twitter had its problems, but it was a way that connected a lot of people. And that will cut people off if Twitter is just gone, especially if it crumbles rapidly. All the people who knew anything there are either fired or working slave jobs on H-1B visas at this point. So, there's a side bet that it literally crumbles, but then like Microsoft or somebody like that buys it for pennies on the dollar and they turn it into something. Maybe Twitter sticks around. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. I do know that big changes like this, earth-shattering changes when a service suddenly goes, they happen fast. And all of a sudden, everyone in panic mode is like, what's going to happen? And they can't connect everybody. Oh my God, it's gone. You see their click refresh. It's just not there. What happened? Taking any of these steps now before you're cut off, it helps your community live on. It helps you stay connected. It gives you that peace of mind to know that there are other ways to still reach out to the people that matter to you. There's plenty of people out there, I'm sure, that they're great friends and you love checking in with them, but when you think about it, you're like, wow, they only know me through Twitter. I don't even have their phone number. I don't have their email address. Take the time, maybe, to do something about that now before it's too late. Hopefully it's never too late. Hopefully we all get through this and, I don't know. But if Twitter's going to be gone, consider discussing now with your friends other ways to stay connected, whether that's Mastodon or something else. That's about all I got for you here. Again, you can find me on Mastodon where I'll be spending more and more of my time. I'm sticking around with Twitter until it completely experiences a nuclear meltdown. But yeah, you can find me there. You can find me other places, and maybe I'll find you there too. I would like that very much. In the meantime, just take care of yourselves, stay in touch, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and stay safe out there.